You might think that martial artists have a significant advantage in street fights, but here are some reasons why martial arts can actually hinder someone's real-life fighting ability and how to overcome them as a martial artist. Let's start with the claim, martial arts are good in martial arts settings. A pretty agreeable claim, right? Now let's look at street fights and pick out the differences, and from there we can find out reasons why martial arts may not perform as well in these settings. So what are some of the differences? Number of people, legal consequences, equipment and environment, but let's zoom in on some of the less obvious differences that actually make a large impact in fights. The first difference is ambush tactics. Potentially the most important rule of street fighting is if it's avoidable, avoid it. Fighting is a last option, so if you're getting in a street fight, chances are it's going to take you by surprise, and that first second can determine a lot more than you might realise. In martial arts, both players are aware of the fight before it happens, giving their bodies time to prepare. Even an untrained opponent may have the advantage if the fight starts on their terms. Posture, timing and distance rely on anticipation, so often fail when those few seconds of preparation aren't given to you. That leads into the second difference, technique itself. Martial arts techniques are built around specific ranges, positions and reactions. They work well when those conditions exist, but street fights rarely offer clean distance or stable footing. When you spar against a teammate in martial arts classes, they'll be following similar techniques to you, so it may create a false image of what fights look like. Opponents in street fights won't follow the same structure as martial arts opponents. They may act emotionally or unpredictably, throwing your training off guard. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, let's talk about adrenaline. Adrenaline is an interesting one because it helps most people in fights, but can actually hinder martial artists. Adrenaline boosts stamina, pain tolerance and strength, which is very useful for someone who's going in swinging. But adrenaline also destroys fine motor control, timing and in-the-moment decision making, all of which martial artists use and train for fights. In training and tournaments, you're likely to get a bit of adrenaline, but when your life or health is truly in danger, your adrenaline spikes dramatically, and all of that training can easily fall apart. Martial artists will of course rely on their martial arts in combat, so when the opponent is adrenaline spiked and you're attempting to use precise techniques with a chemical actively working against you, it often becomes the prime reason martial artists lose fights. So how do we avoid these problems in self-defense? Simply put, by filling in these gaps in training. Of course, you can't mimic violence exactly without it becoming violence in itself, but the more factors you prepare for, the less will get in your way. Try alternate sparring types. Spar with multiple people at once. Spar with different martial artists, and even untrained people. Even ask them to simulate an ambush. Of course, you can't perfect all factors. Most notably, the person attacking you won't be trying to hurt you, so it's not perfect training. But like I said, the more factors you incorporate in training, the less there will be to take you by surprise. Those are some reasons martial artists can lose fights, but that doesn't mean martial arts are useless. Martial arts and self-defense classes are excellent ways to protect yourself, exercise, and even improve mental health. I'm not a professional martial artist, so for this video I read Meditations on Violence by Rory Miller, and it's a book I highly recommend to anyone wanting to go more in depth on martial arts and the psychology of violence. Thanks for joining me here in the Sanctum, and I hope to see you again.